Let's talk about Palutena, the character's only plus point is her fan art. We know all of her mains constantly complain about her ground game and how lacking it is. But really, with that dash attack on frame 6, lasting that long, and her tether grab, not to mention her rising neutral air, which is basically a ground move, all tied together with that amazing ground speed. And then all the Palutena players talk about how she's so fundamentals based. Right. Let's take a look at those fundamentals. Yeah, all I see is your moves that get to beat other moves, even when they're outspaced. When I try to land, you're always there with an invincible dash. Forward air, of course, I try to safe hop parry range for aerials with my back air didn't but your shield space with that. Offstage is a tether grab, you can frame 7 disadvantage. Let's break it down. We will be breaking down Palutena today. This is useful whether you want to learn more about the character, distill her optimal options, learn her weaknesses, get a better idea of the matchup, or even just understand why people think she's such a strong character. We'll be looking at Palutena per game state, these being neutral, advantage, and disadvantage. I then further subdivide these game states as well. In neutral, we have far range, medium range, and close range. As for advantage and disadvantage, we'll be looking at juggles, offstage, and the corner. Let's start with the neutral. When far, Palutena has all the tools she needs to deal with opposing projectiles, with a reflect, multi-hit projectile, and a non-traveling projectile. This gives her extremely strong tools versus pure zoners. In addition, she does really well versus characters that kind of complement her neutral with a single projectile. Think about Ivysaur or Greninja. She can of course straight up reflect the projectiles back, like I mentioned, trade favorably with a multi-hit projectile, or use a non-traveling projectile to also trade favorably. Finally, it also grants an advantage for characters that don't use projectiles at all, since she will be able to pressure them at this range, while the opponent cannot pressure her. It's not a range from which she wins games, but it mitigates the opponent's strengths tremendously. Her long-range tools are great at helping her not lose. They're not strong enough to really put pressure on the opponent. That said, the fact that she even has these tools at long range does so much for her. It really allows her to be the versatile character that she is. It means that she gets to play her own game even versus zoners who prefer to be at long range. Whereas most mid-range sword characters kind of have to play to the opponent's pace, Palutena has the tools to set her own pace even at the long range. At mid-range, Palutena's kit really starts to open up. Her insane ground speed really shines here, allowing her to effortlessly weave in and out of burst ranges. This in turn lets her play an amazing bait and punish game. This bait and punish game is accentuated with her amazing walling aerials, so she can not only play reactive, but also very active. This is all further accentuated by not only her ground speed, but also her amazing air acceleration. This amazing movement really makes it hard to call out her positioning exactly, which further plays into how good her bait and punish game is in the mid-range. On top of that, she has some great call-out tools to really force the opponent to think twice about what they want to do. Her rising forward air auto-cancels on a short hop fastfall. I repeat, her forward air auto-cancels on a short hop fastfall. That is very rare. Combine this with her amazing air acceleration, this really allows her to weave forward and then back before she can get punished. This is an amazing tool at calling out all jumps. Combine this with one of the best dash hacks in the game. Combine this with an amazing rising neutral air that forces the opponent to pick a defensive option to beat it out. As well as beating full hop, one of the most common defensive options in the game. That all combined creates a kit that is extremely strong at taking the initiative. And is going to force the opponent to play more passive. And that is when we get back to the walling aerials. So these strong interception tools like forward air, dash attack, forward air really force the opponent to play slower, and then Palutena can use this time to set up her walling game. Specifically forward air and back air. Her back air is hands down one of the best aerials in the game, with the shield property allowing her to beat out hitboxes even when she gets outspaced. It is impossible to challenge back air with attacks, which only leaves shielding as an answer, which in turn is not the greatest answer because back air is relatively safe on shield. The fact that back air straight up beats other attacks makes it very hard for other mid-range characters to contest her in this range, because they run the risk of being straight up beaten regardless of their spacing. So by winning the long range, she forces the opponent to enter the mid-range, and this is where she shines. She has amazing interceptions like we mentioned, she has amazing setup tools, she has amazing walling tools, and due to her amazing speed on both the ground and in the air, she can play really good bait and punish as well. Her kit is specifically designed to thrive in the mid-range, with her shield normals being able to beat out other disjoints and her great speed being able to play that bait and punish game. So Palutena is the weakest in the close range. This is where her weaknesses become really apparent. Primarily her relatively poor grounded frame data and her relatively poor out of shield options. Her up B and up smash do not serve as good out of shield options, and a lot of her rising aerials hit some of the shorter or even medium height characters. Additionally, due to her poor grounded frame data and her fastest ground normal being dash attack, she has no strong options out of a spot dodge cancel. Talking about dash attack, it is her best grounded move, but it's not good enough to carry an entire ground game. That said, a lot of this is compensated by her rising nair, which basically functions as a ground move as it is started from the ground and ends on the ground as well. The move is disjointed and very long lasting, which all but forces the opponent to shield it or dash out of that range before it has even started. So if you are slower than Palutena, which you often are due to her speed, it can be hard to avoid this move with movement. This means that you have to rely on shielding. Shielding is a strong option versus neutral air, but it's very binary. If you have a good frame 10 out of shield move to punish this, then you're golden. If you don't, you're kinda screwed. That's what I mean with binary. Either you beat it very well, or it dominates the neutral. Additionally, she has what is arguably the best grab in the game, the frame 7 tether grab. Additionally, she gets a decent reward off of it of lower percents, with her down throw being able to combo, though her best kill throw is going to be back throw, which is one of the more situational kill throws to have. All in all, close range is where Palutena's weakest, but she's definitely not weak. She's a top 5 character for a reason. Even at her worst range, she still has the tools to compete with the best of the best. That said, if she has the chance, she would prefer to play the mid-range or the long range. Let's talk about Palutena's advantage game. If you ever played versus Palutena, you know that this is not the best position to be in playing versus her. Advantage is Palutena's playground, and Palutena's juggle game is no exception. Her juggle game is very strong due to her amazing ground speed, good jump and double jump height, and extremely disjointed and lasting up air, which kills and frame traps into other aerials. Her full hop height value is 35.9. which puts her at 18th best in the game. Combine this with a double jump height value that's also 35.9, which puts her at 25 best in the game. Both of these values are definitely far above average, and these allow her to really threaten her aerials for a long time. The high full hop allows her to stay in the air for longer and really mix up when she's gonna do her double jump. And then her high double jump is gonna extend her burst range a lot. Combine these two with the up air that we talked about and you have a very scary Palutena. Additionally, she has 2 of the best smashes in the game for catching landings, both sporting a gigantic disjoint. Last, but definitely not least, there's dash attack. Dash attack negates hitboxes, it's frame 6, and it lingers for a really long time. This creates situations in which she can pretty much checkmate your landing. And with that I mean, you have no options. Dash attack is gonna hit. Air dodge, it's gonna get hit by the lingering hitbox. Hitbox is gonna get clashed away. Do nothing, you still get hit. All in all, the juggle game is a very strong position for Palutena. Her up air is very long lasting and very disjointed, which makes it very hard to get around. If she decides to stay on the ground and react, she can either go for a dash attack, which is very hard to avoid, or read your landing with a stronger move. When you do start playing around her dash attack or even her up air, these smash attacks become that much stronger because now you are committing preemptively. And a preemptive commitment can be read or even reacted to on Palutena's end. And then when she keeps juggling you, perhaps it's best to go off stage and try to recover to the stage from that angle. Let's take a look at her off stage. So when her opponent is off stage, Palutena gets a lot of mileage. Starting from the beginning, high recoveries are all but impossible due to Palutena's amazing juggle game. This is gonna force the opponent to take a lower, more risky route, because they're now closer to the blast zone. That is where you'll find that Palutena still has plenty of answers to mess with your recovery. She is amazing at covering low recoveries with a drop down neutral air due to its lasting nature, and can accentuate this pressure with back air to beat out upbeat hitboxes as well. And then finally, there's counter for those really predictable recoveries like Foxes, Falcos, and Ridleys, and altogether you have a very hard combination of tools to get around. She also has one of the fastest down air spikes in the game, clocking at 10 frames. And even when she doesn't go offstage, she still has plenty of tools to mess with your recovery. She can pressure offstage with Explosive Flame or a well-timed auto reticle. Auto reticle can snipe out double jumps and really hinder your recovery. The existence of these projectiles further limits your recovery paths. Now, even if you make it all the way back to the ledge, there's still one more barrier to get past. That's 2-framing, and Palutena has some of the best 2-framing tools in the game. Her down tilt is a very active hitbox that can combo into a KO if you do not DI it properly. It's disjointed, it's lasting, and it's very low lag, which makes it very low commitment as well. Even if you DI'd well, it often leads into a situation reset and added damage in Palutena's favor. And then there's Up Smash, which is a little bit more situational and matchup dependent, but it's still very, very strong. Again, Up Smash is also a very lasting hitbox, which makes it excellent at catching 2 frames in matchups where it is possible. Once again, Offstage is an amazing position for Palutena, but we're not done yet. If you do make it back to the stage, there's still more. Being in the corner is unfortunately absolutely horrible versus Palutena. We talked about her weaknesses in terms of ranges, and in the corner she has a lot of stage to retreat to, which makes it very hard to force a close range scenario. Meanwhile, because you're in the corner, you're not going to have a lot of room to maneuver. Palutena has all the room in the world. This means she's going to force mid-range scenarios whenever she can, and you're going to have to deal with it time and time again while you fight your way out of the corner. Like I said, it was already hard to deal with Palutena in the mid-range, but in this scenario, you don't even get to use movement to weave around her hitboxes. This means you have to deal with back air, and we talked about back air before. It's uncontestable with attacks. You kind of have to shield it, and shielding is not a punish on the move either. Additionally, this situation also increases the strength of Palutena's interceptions. Normally, Palutena's interceptions lose to dash back, namely the forward air, the neutral air, or the dash attack, but in this scenario you cannot dash back, so you kind of have to rely on shielding these. Additionally, your burst range is weaker because her dash attack is invincible, so her interceptions will beat your interceptions. And then finally, due to how high her neutral air hitbox reaches, even on a short hop, a lot of characters cannot full hop out of the corner, which is the preferred option in the corner. And then when you do get hit in the corner, you are often put off stage again, and then that whole scenario plays out again. You have to get past the neutral air, the 2 frames, the projectiles, etc, etc. But that's enough about advantage. Let's talk a little bit about how Palutena deals with being put in disadvantage. Palutena is a bit of a mixed bag when getting juggled. Most characters have very few options when they're getting juggled due to the general weakness of down airs and strength of up airs, and Palutena is no different. While we talked about her amazing air acceleration before, her maximum airspeed is actually quite lacking. That said, her up B can get her out of situations in which other characters have no options at all. This can be done either through edge cancelling or through warping away when the opponent is about to commit. It even helps her retreat to the ledge in case landing on the stage is just too dangerous. Do keep in mind that this can be beaten out with proper commitment. Additionally, while she does not have an amazing down air like most characters, her neutral air is very active and a little bit disjointed as well, so a fast fall neutral air is actually one of the better landing aerials in the game at getting out of a juggle. It is very high committal though, so if it does get weighted out, it can be hard punished, especially combined with Palutena's poor maximum airspeed. Finally, it's important to know that if you ever hit Palutena and her back is towards you, she gets a strong boost in her landing ability. This is due to her back air being immediately available. It cannot be overstated how powerful this is, especially since when you do intercept her back air walling, oftentimes her back will still be towards you, and then she gets a free pass back to neutral. All in all, Palutena has some good options at getting out of juggles, between her neutral air being a good interception tool when landing, and warp being able to mix up her landing position from time to time. Her poor airspeed still kind of plays a role, but it's not as significant as you would think it would be. This is good for Palutena players because Palutena really does not want to be offstage. So offstage is where Palutena is at her very weakest. Her up B is relatively easy to 2-frame, and her lacking max airspeeds makes her recovery paths relatively predictable as well. The first step to pressuring Palutena offstage is to prevent her from going for an high up B to mitigate the 2-framing. When you do pressure her on her high recoveries, she will start recovering lower, and that is when you can start going for those 2-frames. These 2-frames attempts can be the difference between winning or losing the game, whether it's a down tilt that resets the situation and consistently wrecks damage, or a down smash that can even close out a stock. And now, I present to you, Catharsis. Oh, good to have that out of the system. Alright, let's get back on track. It is essential that you maximize your profits when Palutena is offstage, since not only is it her weakest point, but when she does make it back to the stage, yeah, so Palutena in the corner is actually quite strong. Usually characters have to rely a lot on shielding in the corner to mitigate the opponent's control over space, but Palutena has a built-in mechanic to work around her weak shield game, and that is her shield normals. This alternative way to beat attacks allows her to contest people even when she's in the corner. When pressuring someone in the corner, many characters rely on landing aerials and kind of the mix-up moment that provides, with empty landings, etc, etc. Pressuring Palutena is different, since her dash attack allows her to anti-air those landing aerials easily. This changes the dynamic entirely. Not only do you have to shield to play around her dash attack, shielding opens up her grab, which naturally leads into back throw, her strongest killing throw. That said, if you give her too much space or too much respect, she can set up her back air wall or even quickly take space with her amazing ground speed. And that is not even everything. She also has Warp out of the corner. Warp is an amazing tool, especially versus characters on the slower side, since they need to commit beforehand to the positioning. She can even further mix up her Warp by doing a tilt input, which reduces the distance she travels. This can really mess with anyone who's listening for the audio cue and positioning according to the max length Warp. All in all, she's kind of amazing at getting out of the corner, so be sure to adjust your game plan when she is in the corner, and be sure to give her the respect she deserves. Otherwise, she's just gonna fight her way out of the corner, and that is gonna be a very bad scenario for you. All in all, Palutena is a strong character with a few key weaknesses. However, the thing that makes her so strong is that she has all the tools needed to deal with these weaknesses. Her relatively poor last resort defensive options, primarily shield and spot dodge, are compensated for by her amazing shield normals and ground speed, both of which mean that she doesn't have to rely on them as often as other characters do. Her interceptions are on the weaker side for a top tier, but if you don't have a reliable answer to neutral air, this weakness is all but moot. Her dash speed, her dash attack shield property, and her forward air auto-cancelling on a short of fast fall combined with her amazing airspeed and ground speed still gives her a lot of ways to intercept, even when you can beat her neutral air. Her slow airspeed makes her disadvantage exploitable, both in juggles and offstage, but in both scenarios, Warp's mobility compensates a lot. And for her recovery, it's very matchup dependent. You need to have a good tool to pressure her on her high recoveries, as well as either a very high rewarding or a very consistent 2-framing tool to actually punish her up B. That is 2 requirements just to exploit one weakness. Finally, if you are strong at fighting up close, you'll definitely do a lot better versus Palutena. Her poor up close frame data really puts a damper on her effectiveness. That said, many close range fighters really struggle to get into that range, and Palutena is one of the best characters at keeping people out of that close range. In other words, you not only need the tools to capitalize on her weaknesses, but also tools to disarm the way she compensates for those weaknesses. In reality, only a select few top tiers have the tools needed to really exploit Palutena's weaknesses, and even fewer have even or favorable matchups against her. So that's all about Palutena. Let me know who you guys want to see next, either in the comments, on Twitter, or in my Discord, and the links for that are in the description down below. That's all for now. Stay smart.